If money truly brought freedom, why are so many rich people still slaves to their own wealth? Why, even after accumulating fortunes, do so many remain anxious, insecure, and afraid of losing everything? Society leads us to believe that wealth is the solution to all problems, but in reality, the endless pursuit of money often becomes a prison. There is an ancient rule, practiced by some of the greatest Stoic thinkers in history, that can completely transform your relationship with wealth. This rule has nothing to do with making more money, accumulating possessions, or chasing status. On the contrary, it reveals a secret that few people know, but one that can change your financial life forever. And the most fascinating part? This rule not only has the power to make you rich, but also to grant you a level of freedom that most people never experience. Before explaining how this works, we need to understand why so many people never feel truly wealthy, even when they reach their financial goals. The trap lies in infinite desire. As soon as one financial milestone is achieved, a new goal appears on the horizon, as if nothing is ever enough. Money becomes an emotional crutch, and inner peace is constantly postponed to a when that never arrives. The problem is that this relentless chase wears down the mind and creates a psychological dependence on possessions. But what if there were another way? A path to wealth that doesn't trap you in an endless cycle of always wanting more. This idea might seem counterintuitive at first, but this is exactly how the Stoics viewed true prosperity. They discovered that the key to wealth wasn't in the amount of money accumulated, but in the relationship they cultivated with it. And this realization made them some of the most resilient and emotionally balanced individuals in history. Let's explore how this Stoic principle can completely shift your perspective on money and financial freedom. If we believe that accumulating more money will make us free, the reality is that the endless desire for more creates an invisible prison. From a young age, we are taught to seek financial security, but this pursuit turns into an endless cycle. The more we have, the more we feel we need. Society reinforces this mindset through consumer culture, convincing us that happiness lies in the next car, the next house, the next promotion. But this mentality comes at a high cost: constant dissatisfaction. Millionaires who should be at peace with their fortunes often live tormented by the fear of loss. Instead of enjoying their wealth, they spend their lives protecting it. The problem is not the amount of money, but the way we relate to it. For the Stoics, this anxiety was the true enemy of freedom. They realized that excessive desire for wealth breeds restlessness and unhappiness, creating an emotional dependency that strips us of control over our own lives. On the other hand, those who learn to master this relationship achieve a level of freedom that money alone can never provide. The story of Crassus, one of the wealthiest men in ancient Rome, illustrates this trap. Obsessed with increasing his fortune, he never felt satisfied and ultimately betrayed his own principles to gain even more power. His relentless pursuit led him to a tragic fate, demonstrating that an obsession with wealth can become a burden rather than a relief. This brings us to a crucial question. If the amount of money does not define true wealth, then what is the solution? The story of Alexander the Great further highlights this trap. Despite conquering almost the entire known world, he died young, unsatisfied, and still seeking more. His insatiable desire for power and expansion did not bring contentment, but rather a life of restlessness and a lonely end. The Stoics saw this infinite thirst as a poison to true inner peace. They had a clear answer to this dilemma, and that is exactly what we will explore next. The relentless pursuit of money often hides a deeper issue: insatiable desire. The more we have, the more we want, and this cycle perpetuates itself without ever bringing true satisfaction. The Stoics understood that the problem was not wealth itself, but the obsession with it. Excessive desire breeds restlessness and makes peace of mind entirely dependent on external factors, rendering any achievement insufficient. This continuous dissatisfaction leads to fear of loss. Those who accumulate wealth without mastering their impulses live in constant anxiety, worried about the possibility of losing everything. Financial insecurity does not vanish with more money. It grows as dependence on status and consumption increases. The Stoics taught that true stability comes from within, not from a bank balance. The great paradox of money is that it promises freedom, but often shackles those who possess it. When your entire life revolves around accumulating and protecting wealth, you are not rich. You are a prisoner of your own greed. To the Stoics, true wealth meant emotional independence and mastery over one's desires. This brings us to a fundamental principle that can free anyone from this vicious cycle. And that is exactly what we will explore next. The Stoics had a radically different perspective on wealth. To them, prosperity was not determined by the amount of money one possessed, but by the ability to control one's desires. Seneca once said, "Wealth is not about having money, but about having control over it." This principle encapsulates the essence of Stoic financial philosophy. True power comes not from accumulation, but from emotional independence regarding money. The concept of autokeia, self-sufficiency, was central to the Stoics. It means that true wealth is found in needing less, not in having more. Someone who masters their impulses and desires is richer than one who possesses great fortunes but remains enslaved to their lifestyle. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful emperors, embodied this principle by living simply despite having access to the vast wealth of the Roman Empire. The Stoic secret to true wealth lies not in accumulation, but in internal control. The Stoics taught that freedom comes from within, not from external possessions. When someone learns to reduce their needs and appreciate what truly matters, they achieve a level of peace and independence that money can never provide. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, exemplifies this lesson. He had no material wealth, yet he was emotionally unshakable. His belief was simple. Happiness is not about wanting things, but about being free from the desire for them. This lesson, applied today, can transform the way we approach money and liberate us from the endless prison of ambition. Now that we understand this perspective, it's time to apply this knowledge in practice and discover how to change our relationship with money for good. A great example of someone who lived by these principles is Diogenes the Cynic. He rejected wealth and luxury, living an extremely simple life and proving that happiness did not depend on material possessions. His stance shocked even the most powerful, like Alexander, who once offered him anything he desired, only to hear Diogenes reply, "Move out of my sunlight." Now that we understand the Stoic view on wealth, it is essential to apply it in practice. Here are 3 actions that can transform your relationship with money for good. Practice voluntary frugality. Reducing expenses intentionally is one of the most effective ways to learn to live better with less. The Stoics deliberately practice this, believing that exposing themselves to a simpler life could strengthen their self-control and eliminate dependence on luxury. Spend a month without buying non-essential items and observe how it affects your mindset and well-being. A classic example of this principle is Cato the Younger. Despite being a prestigious figure in Rome, he dressed simply, walked barefoot, and refused any luxury that could weaken his self-discipline. For the Stoics, this practice of voluntary frugality strengthened character and prevented dependence on excessive comfort. Reflect on the impermanence of wealth. The Stoic practice of negative visualization teaches us to imagine losses to reduce the fear of facing them. Ask yourself, if I lost everything today, how would I react? This exercise helps build resilience and view money as a means, not an end. Invest in the only true wealth, your knowledge and skills. True financial security comes from what no one can take away from you, your knowledge. The Stoics valued continuous learning as the highest form of independence. Instead of focusing solely on accumulating money, invest in skills that can generate value regardless of economic circumstances. If you want to deepen this knowledge and apply Stoic principles to achieve true financial freedom, check out the ebook, Stoic Wealth: How Philosophical Lessons Can Transform Your Financial Life. The link is in the first pinned comment. By adopting these actions, you will begin to experience a form of wealth that does not depend on external factors and will take control of your relationship with money. We have now reached the crucial point of this reflection. True wealth is not about accumulating more, but about needing less. You can spend your life chasing money, but if you do not control your relationship with it, you will never experience true freedom. The Stoics taught us that the secret to prosperity lies in how we perceive and use our resources, not in how much we own. The final lesson is simple yet profound. When you learn to master your desires, reduce your dependence on material possessions, and invest in what truly matters, such as knowledge and character, you become unshakable. This means that true wealth is not in vaults or investments, but in your ability to live well with what you have. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Now that you understand this ancient rule, it is time to take action. Practice voluntary frugality, question your desires, and invest in yourself. Small changes can create profound impacts on your financial and emotional life. We want to hear from you. Which of these principles resonated with you the most? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on how to apply Stoicism to your financial journey. If this video brought you value, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep receiving content that blends philosophy and finance. Stay on the path to prosperity, Until we meet again.